The night air is cold and smells of damp earth and smoke. Far away, a rounded hill shrouded in slow-moving mist, a single bonfire glows like a lone, watchful eye. Flames reach upward into the darkening sky, casting long, dancing shadows across the fields. People gathered, faces lit by flickering light. Quiet murmurs, low whispers drifting into stillness. A child near the edge of the firelight holds a small, hollowed turnip. A faint glow gently glides through a roughly carved face. This scene is ancient, the year seeming to breathe its last. The beginning of a long story, a thread that winds through centuries to modern Halloween. This night is a threshold, a moment of transition. The hinge, warmth and light of summer giving way to cold and dark of winter. The world feels different. The air holds a weight, anticipation. The people by the fire feel it, more than watching flames. They participate in something older than themselves. The fire, warmth and protection against encroaching chill. Mist curls around hills and valleys. Not just weather, but part of the story. It blurs edges, making the familiar seem strange and mysterious. In soft gray light, other things seem to move just beyond sight. The people on the hill are aware. Their rituals respond to this suspension of ordinary rules. They are not merely celebrating, preparing, guarding, remembering. The fire pushes back physical darkness and stands as a spiritual beacon. This quiet, eerie scene contains the seeds of what's to come. The fire, costumes to blend into shadows, offerings left for unseen visitors, the carved vegetable with its inner light. These elements will survive, changing shape and meaning, but not disappearing. This single fire on a Celtic hill is the first small candle in a long procession of lights. Those lights will one day illuminate porches and windows across the world. The story of Halloween is not invention but transformation. It begins here, in smoke and mist, one night when the veil between worlds is thin. Long before the name Halloween existed, people in the lands we now know as Ireland, Scotland, Wales, observed a festival called Samhain, pronounced Samhain. This was one of the most important moments in the ancient Celtic calendar. Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and the conclusion of the lighter half of the year. As the days grew shorter and the nights grew longer, people prepared for the coming winter. It was a time of closure, a final gathering of crops and livestock. The air grew cold, the leaves fell, and the world prepared for a long sleep. This was the Celtic New Year's Eve, a point of transition from the old year to the new. The core belief of Samhain was that the boundary between the living and the other world became porous. Spirits, fairies, souls of the dead could more easily cross into the realm of humans. This wasn't necessarily seen as evil, but it was a time of great supernatural activity that needed care and respect. The return of ancestral spirits was often welcomed. Families would set a place at their table for loved ones who had passed away. It was a night for connecting with those who had gone before, telling their stories and keeping memories alive. The presence of the dead was felt as a real and immediate thing. To manage this openness, people performed specific rituals, great communal bonfires on hilltops. These bonfires were considered sacred. Their flames were protective and cleansing. People led cattle between two fires to bless them. They extinguished home hearths and relit them with an ember from the sacred bonfire, symbolizing community connection. Offerings of food and drink were left outside homes to appease wandering spirits and ensure they passed peacefully without harming people or livestock. Costumes and masks played a crucial role. People disguised themselves with animal skins, straw, and blackened faces. This practice, known as Guising, had a dual purpose. Wearing a disguise helped people move about unnoticed by malevolent spirits. It was also a form of play, stepping outside normal identities and making mischief. Groups of geysers traveled house to house, reciting verses, performing short plays in exchange for food. The mix of solemn ritual and playful performance gave Samhain its unique character, a night of both fear and fun. As Christianity spread across Europe, it often absorbed and repurposed existing pagan traditions rather than eradicating them completely. When missionaries arrived in the Celtic lands, they encountered the powerful and deeply ingrained customs of Samhain. In the 8th century, the Church made a strategic move. Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as All Saints' Day, a time to honor all the saints and martyrs of the faith. The night before, October 31st, became known known as All Hallows Eve, the evening before the Holy Day. This placement was no coincidence. It was a deliberate effort to overlay a Christian observance onto the ancient pagan festival, redirecting its spiritual energy. Over the centuries, the two traditions began to blend together. The focus on spirits and the dead from Samhain found a parallel in the Christian remembrance of departed souls. All Saints' Day was followed by All Souls' Day on November 2nd, a day for praying for the souls of ordinary deceased Christians. Across Europe, church bells would ring to comfort the souls believed to be in purgatory. People lit candles, creating a sea of small, flickering lights in churches and graveyards. The old idea of a thin veil between worlds was reframed, but it did not go away. The night remained a time for thinking about the dead and the afterlife. One of the most significant medieval customs that emerged from this blend was souling. On All Hallows Day, All Souls Day, poor people, often children, would go from door to door, a practice known as going a-souling. They would offer to say prayers for the souls of a household's dead relatives. In return for these prayers, they were given soul cakes, small, round cakes often marked with a cross. Each cake eaten was said to represent a soul freed from purgatory. This tradition created a powerful link between the living and the dead, built on an exchange of charity and prayer. It was a solemn and respectful custom, very different from the mischief of later years. This practice of going door to door, offering a performance or a promise in exchange for a treat, is a clear ancestor of modern trick-or-treating. While souling was rooted in religious belief, other similar traditions were more playful. In some parts of Britain, people practiced Guising, and they would dress in elaborate costumes. They would perform short plays. They would tell jokes. They would sing songs at their neighbors' homes. These performers were rewarded with food, drink, the costumes, the door-to-door procession, and the exchange of a performance for a reward. All these elements from souling and guising would become central pillars of the Halloween celebrations that were yet to come. One of the most enduring symbols of Halloween is the glowing carved face of a jack-o'-lantern. Its origins, however, are not in a bright orange pumpkin, but in a humble turnip. In Ireland and Scotland, people would take large turnips, potatoes, beets, and hollow them out. They carved crude, frightening faces into the tough skin. A lit piece of coal or a small candle placed inside and made the face flicker and glow in the dark. Geysers carried these lanterns from house to house or set them in windows, on doorsteps, to ward off evil spirits. The name jack-o'-lantern comes from an old Irish folktale about Stingy Jack. Jack was a clever but miserly blacksmith who tricked the devil again and again. In one tale, he trapped the devil in a tree, then made him promise not to claim his soul. When Jack died, heaven refused him. Hell refused him too, honoring the devil's promise. Instead, the devil gave Jack a single burning ember, which Jack put into a hollowed turnip. Condemned, Jack roamed the earth forever with his lantern. The tale named the glowing lights people called them Jack of the Lantern, or jack-o'-lanterns, seen over bogs and marshes at night. Carved turnips became symbols of the wandering spirit, or a way to frighten restless souls away. The light was practical, lighting country lanes on Samhain, but mainly it was supernatural protection. The ghoulish lit face was protective magic, a small beacon against the encroaching dark. Irish and Scottish immigrants brought these customs to America, including Stingy Jack's story and carved lanterns. In America, they found a native fruit, perfect for the job. The pumpkin. Pumpkins were much larger than turnips. Softer, far easier to hollow and carve. The tradition adapted quickly. The turnip's gnarled face gave way to the big, grinning pumpkin, creating the Halloween image we know today. A simple switch shows how old traditions adapt and thrive in a new land. The story of modern Halloween is, in large part, an American story, and it begins with migration. Throughout the 19th century, Ireland, Scotland crossed the Atlantic Ocean, seeking new opportunities in North America. They brought with them a rich cargo of cultural traditions. Stingy, stingy, stingy. Jack. Rituals of guising. Lighting bonfires. When they settled in their new communities, they continued these customs, introducing them to a diverse and rapidly changing American society. In the early years, these celebrations were mostly confined to the immigrant communities themselves. Private, informal gatherings, songs, games, folklore, children dressing up, playing pranks, families telling ghost stories around the fire. As the 19th century progressed, these traditions began to seep into the wider culture. Newspapers and magazines started to take notice, publishing articles about these quaint, old-world customs. The idea of a night for playful mischief and spooky fun began to capture the American imagination. By the late 1800s, Halloween was evolving into a more public and community-oriented holiday. It became an occasion for social gatherings. Towns and cities organized Halloween parties, parades, costume contests. Events brought neighbors together and channeled youthful energy into organized, less destructive activities. Halloween shed some of its solemn, spiritual skin and became a holiday centered on community fun. This American transformation standardized the holiday. Samhain, All Hallows Eve, the Irish turnip became the American pumpkin. Informal pranks and guising evolved into structured expectations. The holiday became less about appeasing ancient spirits and more about celebrating with your neighbors. This shift laid the groundwork for the Halloween that would explode in popularity in the 20th century. Yeah. The custom we now call trick-or-treat did not appear overnight. It grew slowly from older traditions, souling, guising, and a uniquely American history of holiday begging. By the 1920s and the 1930s, children in costumes went door to door, asking for treats in parts of North America. The trick was often literal. Halloween night was notorious for pranks. From harmless fun to vandalism, treats became a household bribe. The Great Depression and World War II temporarily put traditions on hold. Resources were scarce. Candy was a luxury. After the war, everything changed. The American economy boomed. Millions moved to new suburbs. Rows of houses, well-lit streets, close-knit communities created a safe, organized Halloween. Parents felt comfortable letting kids go door to door. The post-war baby boom meant more children. Halloween became a major kids' night. The focus shifted from tricks to treats. Community leaders, school, parents groups promoted wholesome trick-or-treating. Pranks were discouraged. A costume and a polite request earned a piece of candy. Homemade costumes, often old sheets or paper masks, were a staple. By the 1950s, trick-or-treating was established. It was a shared cultural script everyone understood. Television shows, movies, magazines cemented the suburban Halloween image. The spooky night had been tamed into a sweet, orderly childhood adventure. As trick-or-treating became the dominant Halloween activity in the mid-20th century, a new and powerful force began to shape the holiday: commercialization. Candy companies were among the first to see the massive potential. Before the 1950s, treats were often homemade items, like cookies, popcorn balls, pieces of fruit. However, as concerns about safety grew and as mass production made packaged goods cheaper, individually wrapped candies became the preferred choice. They were convenient, safe, and easy to hand out in large quantities. Candy manufacturers began marketing their products specifically for Halloween, creating special packaging with spooky themes. Halloween became a major driver of confectionery sales, second only to Christmas and Easter. The sheer volume of candy produced for the season was staggering. Images of massive assembly lines with endless streams of chocolate bars and lollipops being wrapped and bagged became a new, unseen part of the Halloween ritual. The simple soul cake of the Middle Ages had evolved into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Stores began to dedicate entire aisles to Halloween candy, offering a dizzying array of choices from late summer until the end of October. The commercial influence did not stop with candy. The 1960s and 1970s saw the rise of mass-produced costumes. Instead of homemade ghost costumes from old sheets, children could now be their favorite cartoon characters, superheroes, movie monsters. These costumes were often sold in simple cardboard boxes with a plastic mask and a vinyl smock. At the same time, the market for Halloween decorations exploded. Plastic skeletons, rubber bats, fake spider webs, jack-o'-lantern variations became essential items for decorating homes and yards. Store windows transformed into elaborate displays of orange and black, creating a festive atmosphere that started earlier each year. Media and popular culture reinforced this commercial boom. Halloween-themed television specials from cartoons like It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown to horror movies created a shared visual language for the holiday. These programs entertained, and they also served as powerful advertisements showcasing the costumes, candies, and decorations now considered essential. What was once a night of quiet ritual and community folklore had transformed into a major commercial season, a vibrant and noisy festival of consumption where the spooky spirit of the holiday was used to sell products. Oh, and, that was really the new normal. For much of the 20th century, the commercialized trick-or-treating version of Halloween was a distinctly North American phenomenon. While its roots were in Europe, the holiday as we know it today was largely shaped and popularized in the United States and Canada. However, through the pervasive influence of American media, movies, television shows, music, the images and customs of this modern Halloween began to spread across the globe. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, pumpkins, witches' hats, and the phrase trick-or-treat started appearing in places with no historical connection to Samhain or All Hallows Eve. In many countries, the adoption of Halloween has been primarily as a secular commercial event focused on fun and partying. In Japan, for example, Halloween has become a massive cultural happening, especially for young adults. It is less about door-to-door trick-or-treating and more about elaborate costume, parades, and street parties in districts like Shibuya and Tokyo. In parts of Europe, including France and Germany, American-style Halloween parties and decorations have become popular, often existing alongside more traditional, solemn observances of All Saints' Day. The global spread has been driven by retail stores, bars, and entertainment venues that see the holiday as a lucrative opportunity. This global expansion is not a simple copy and paste of the American model. Instead, Halloween is often blended with or adapted to fit local cultures and traditions. In Mexico and other parts of Latin America, the timing of Halloween coincides with Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. While the two holidays have very different origins and tones, one playful and spooky, the other colorful and reverent, they have begun to influence each other. It is not uncommon to see jack-o'-lanterns and skeletons alongside the traditional sugar skulls and marigold-adorned altars, creating a unique cultural hybrid. However, the global spread of Halloween has also met with resistance. Some view it as a form of cultural imperialism, an unwelcome intrusion of American consumerism that threatens to overshadow local traditions. Religious groups in some countries have spoken out against the holiday's perceived pagan or demonic themes, while cultural purists worry that its commercial flashiness will erode more meaningful and historical ways of remembering the dead. The story of Halloween's journey around the world is therefore a complex one, marked by enthusiastic adoption, creative adaptation, and in some corners, a firm rejection of its modern form. Even amidst the bright plastic decorations, mountains of candy, the ancient spirit of Samhain has not been entirely lost. The old meanings and feelings associated with this time of year continue to echo through our modern celebrations, often in ways we don't consciously recognize. The fundamental theme of Halloween remains the confrontation with darkness, death, the unknown. We dress up as ghosts, skeletons, monsters, the very things our ancestors sought to ward off. And in doing so, we playfully tame our fears. The act of putting on a scary mask is a way of looking death in the face and laughing. The timing of the holiday, at the very end of October, still carries a powerful symbolic weight. It's the moment when the natural world around us is visibly dying. The leaves have fallen, the air is cold, the darkness of winter is settling in. This seasonal shift creates a natural mood of reflection and melancholy, a time to think about endings and what lies beyond. Many people, even those who don't believe in wandering spirits, feel a certain poignancy in the air. The modern Halloween party, with its bright lights and loud music, can be seen as a direct descendant of the Samhain bonfire, a defiant blaze of life and community against the encroaching gloom. The deep-seated tradition of remembering the dead also persists. While it is most visible in cultures like Mexico's Dia de los Muertos, the theme of remembrance is woven into Halloween itself. For many, it is a time to tell ghost stories, which are often tales about the lingering presence of those who have passed on. Visiting cemeteries for spooky tours or simply reflecting on lost loved ones is a common, if quieter, aspect of the season. The jack-o'-lantern on the porch is not just a decoration. It is a sentinel, a light in the darkness, echoing the ancient belief in protecting the home and honoring the boundary between the living and the dead. Ultimately, the enduring power of Halloween lies in its ability to hold contradictory feelings at the same time. It's both scary and fun, solemn and silly, ancient and modern. It is a night where children can feel brave by dressing as monsters, and adults can reconnect with a sense of childhood wonder and play. The holiday provides a safe, structured way for a community to explore its anxieties about mortality and the unknown. The old rituals of costumes, lights, and offerings have survived because they continue to speak to a fundamental human need. The need to come together, to light a fire, and to face the darkness as one. The story of Halloween ends where it begins, with light in the darkness. Imagine a slow montage of images, a journey through time. We see the single bonfire on a misty Celtic hill, its flames reflecting in the watchful eyes of ancient people. A medieval child holding a soul cake, her face serious as she promises a prayer. A rough glowing carved turnip lantern held aloft in a dark Irish lane. We are on a steamship crossing a vast gray ocean, faces filled with hope and uncertainty, carrying traditions to a new world. A quiet, tree-lined suburban street in the 1950s. Small ghosts and witches, made of bed sheets and paper masks, run from door to door. The hypnotic rhythm of a modern candy factory. A river of orange and black wrappers flowing endlessly. Flash to global celebrations. Costumed crowds in Tokyo. Colorful sugar skulls on a family altar in Oaxaca. Children in a German suburb carving their first pumpkins. Each image is a link in a chain that stretches back for thousands of years. What this journey shows us is that a tradition is not a static object preserved in glass. It is a living, breathing thing that adapts, travels, and transforms. It sheds old skins and grows new ones. The sacred bonfire of Samhain became the candle in the jack-o'-lantern. The prayer for a soul became the playful demand of trick or treat. The offering to a spirit became a piece of candy for a child. The meanings have shifted, but the core actions remain remarkably constant. Gathering together, sharing food, lighting the dark, and acknowledging the mystery of the veil.